Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Public Service Commission of South Carolina. Today is May 23rd, 2022, and it's 10:01 a.m. Before we get started, please join me in a brief moment of silence. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Present in the hearing room, we have Commissioner J. Williams, Caston, Powers, and Belzer. Joining us virtually, we have Commissioners C. Williams and Urban. General Counsel Wessinger Hill, if you would please read the docket.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, we are here today for the proceeding in docket number 2019-387A, which is part of the matter related to the rulemaking proceeding, which was for the purpose of developing the regulation, which has now become final, to help prevent the potential for misleading advertisements by prohibiting the sale of customer data. This hearing has been scheduled for today to begin at 10 a.m. and to continue there until completed. Mr. Chairman, it is my understanding that our technology is operating and that the parties participating are present with their respective witnesses either virtually or in person, and the docket is in order.
All right, thank you very much. Any preliminary matters before we go through the parties appearing today?
No, sir.
I got you. So Dominion Energy South Carolina. Already did that. It's okay.
Mr. Chairman, good morning, members of the commission. My name is Matt Gissendanner on behalf of Dominion Energy South Carolina. With me today are Mr. Ashley Cooper and Mr. Will Middleton of the law firm of Parker Poe. Mr. Middleton will be handling our witness, Ms. Freeman. It's our pleasure to appear before you this morning.
All right. I think now is as good a time of any to put on the record that Ms. Christina Freeman and I were members of Leadership South Carolina class of 2022. We worked together for about a year, learning about various issues affecting the state of South Carolina, and I went through several leadership modules along with a class service project in Allendale, South Carolina. I don't think that hearing this case would create any partiality or bias in favor of Dominion Energy South Carolina, but I wanted to put that on the record just in case any party would object to me hearing this matter. Any objections? All right, hearing none, I will hear this matter. Ms. Freeman, good to see you again. All right. Duke Energy Carolinas, Duke Energy Progress.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Katie Brown. I'm here today on behalf of Duke Energy Carolinas and Duke Energy Progress, and also appearing virtually with me today is our witness, Mr. Alan Hutcherson.
Thank you, Katie. This is Alan Hutcherson.
Mr. Hutcherson, Attorney Brown, good to see you all, and thank you for being here. Lockhart Power.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Lockhart Power.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Peg Fox. I'm here representing Lockhart Power today. We have virtually appearing our witness, Brian Stone, who's president of Lockhart Power. And we also have Mr. David Turner with us today virtually with Lockhart Power. He's the business controller, and he is here for the purpose of responding to any detailed questions the commissioners might have following Mr. Stone's testimony. Mr. Stone and Brian and David Turner both will be available to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Fox. Thank you, Mr. Bowen, Attorney Bowen and Mr. Stone and Mr. Turner. Piedmont Natural Gas Company.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Jason Richardson. I'm representing Piedmont Natural Gas Company. Today we have company witness Pia K. Powers, who is the managing director of gas rates and regulatory for the company. We appreciate the opportunity to be before the commission and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Attorney Richardson. Good morning, Ms. Powers. Thank you all for being here.
Good morning, thank you.
Ms. Powers, if you could speak into your microphone again.
Good morning, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, ma'am. Blue Granite Water Company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Lyle Trawick of Robinson, Gray, Stephen Lafitte on behalf of Blue Granite Water Company. With me today, I've got Mr. Phil Drennan, who is also appearing virtually.
Good morning, Attorney Trawick and Mr. Drennan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Southwest Water Company.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Matt. Here we go. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Charlie Tereni for Southwest Water Company. And with me today will be Craig Sorensen, who is president of Southwest Water Company in Alabama, Florida, and South Carolina.
Good morning, Attorney Tereni, and good morning, Mr. Sorensen. Good to see you both again today.
Morning.
Town of Irmo. The Town of Irmo. All right. South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Madam Vice Chair and members of the commission. My name is Chris Huber, and I'm here today on behalf of the Office of Regulatory Staff. Thank you.
All right. I'm just going to go through the list of participants in the docket who did not appear today. AAA Utilities Incorporated. I'll get to them. Consumer Data Industry Organization, Hyde Park Waterworks Incorporated, Ocean Lakes Utilities LP, Pine Haven Water System, QH Lagoon LLC, Scotland Yard MHP Incorporated, Sliding Rock Water System LLC, T&M Utilities Incorporated, Upstate Water Resources Incorporated, Water Supply Company Incorporated, Wrights Plumbing and Utilities Incorporated. And we're going to add to that list the Town of Irmo. I forgot to call the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. Please forgive me for that. Is the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs with us today? All right. We will add them to the list of participants in the docket not appearing. Okay. Dominion Energy, South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Will Middleton on behalf of Dominion Energy, South Carolina. At this time, we'd like to call our witness, Christina Freeman, to the stand.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Freeman, if you would, raise your right hand and prepare to be sworn in by our court reporter.
Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Please state your name for the record.
My name's Christina Freeman.
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by Dominion Energy South Carolina, and I'm currently the Director of Customer Account Management.
And Ms. Freeman, have you prepared or caused to be prepared under your supervision direct testimony of 20 pages that was previously filed with this commission on April 14th in this docket?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any changes or additions to your pre-filed direct testimony?
No, not at this time.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Could I ask the witness to pull the microphone a little bit closer? Even in the hearing room, I'm having a hard time hearing her.
All right.
Thank you.
You want to test that out, Ms. Freeman?
Yes. Is this better?
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, while the flow is broken, I just wanted to note that I have participated and been on this hearing since about 9:59. So sorry I missed the roll call, but I'm here.
All right. Maybe my microphone wasn't on when I called roll. I think it was. Did the court report? You got it? Okay. We got you present and accounted for, Commissioner Williams, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Freeman, just to make sure we have it on the record, I'll ask you that last question one more time. Do you have any changes or additions to your pre-filed direct testimony?
No, not at this time.
And so, Ms. Freeman, if I asked you the same questions here today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I move that the pre-filed direct testimony of Ms. Freeman be admitted into the record as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Ms. Freeman will be read into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Freeman, have you also prepared or caused to be prepared under your supervision one exhibit labeled as CF1 that was previously filed with the Commission as an attachment to your pre-filed direct testimony in this docket?
Yes, I did.
And Ms. Freeman, do you have any changes or additions to that exhibit?
No, not at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Mr. Chairman, I would also move into the record as the first hearing exhibit, the exhibit attached to Ms. Freeman's direct testimony and labeled as CF1.
Exhibit CF1 will be marked and entered into the record as hearing Exhibit 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Freeman, have you prepared a summary of your direct testimony?
Yes, I have.
Would you please deliver that at this time?
Certainly. Good morning, Chairman Williams and members of the Commission. The purpose of my testimony is to explain how DESC follows its proposed implementation guidelines for utility customer data that were filed in this docket. These guidelines govern the protection of customer data received by DESC and are required by Commission Regulation 103-823.2. In my direct testimony, I explained that the proposed guidelines reflect my department's current practice with regard to customer data. My department is the primary point of contact for our customers, which means that my department is the primary group at DESC that receives customer data. For example, customers who wish to initiate service or take advantage of certain Commission-approved customer programs or offerings work with the Customer Account Management Department. In that sense, my testimony details how DESC protects customer data in the performance of our day-to-day responsibilities. The guidelines address the ways in which DESC receives customer information, including through a self-service web portal, email, and telephone. Each of these contact methods is available to DESC customers on the homepage of DESC's Customer Service Department webpage. In each case, DESC only receives customer information that is required to provide the customer with its products and services in a safe and reliable manner. The guidelines also permit customers to opt out of sharing certain information with DESC. Upon request, DESC will provide information about a customer's data held by DESC in its Customer Information System, or the CIS, as well as the customer's energy usage data held by DESC. Regardless of the manner in which customer data is provided, DESC maintains a number of security practices, both electronic and physical, to protect customer data from unauthorized access or misuse in accordance with the proposed guidelines. For example, employees can only access the Customer Contact Center, the building which houses my department, if they have been granted badge access to the building. Prior to obtaining access to such customer data, employees in the Customer Service Department are required to complete training aligned with the level of access needed for their job function. Even for those employees that have been trained, employees must have a business need to access that data. DESC also monitors employee access to the CIS, and employee access is also audited on a monthly and annual basis to ensure compliance with DESC's information practices. The proposed guidelines explain that DESC has designated a Chief Compliance Officer who's responsible for compliance with DESC's customer data protection regulations. The Chief Compliance Officer's name is posted on the DESC website, internal and external, and this person will take the lead on matters related to compliance with the practices outlined in the proposed guidelines. DESC's standard practice prohibits the sale of customer data. While sales are prohibited, DESC may share customer data in certain situations with trusted third parties, such as a community action agency attempting to assist a customer with bill payment. The proposed guidelines specify the way in which this information is shared
and requires certain safeguards to ensure that customer data remains protected and is shared only when required by law or the guidelines. In summary, the proposed guidelines employ measures to ensure that customer data is protected and received when such data is required to provide products or services requested by customers. The proposed guidelines also implement a framework to ensure that permitted third parties implement stringent protections as well. Therefore, DESC believes the proposed guidelines fulfill the Commission's regulations and respectfully request approval of the same. Thank you, and this concludes my summary.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Mr. Chairman, Ms. Freeman is available for questioning.
Commissioner questions? Commissioner Powers?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you.
Did both of y'all graduate when you went to school, leadership school?
We did. We actually just graduated not too long ago.
My question is this, because I find emails that I get and didn't want are just aggravating as you know what. Is there, you say customers have a right to opt out of like even solicitations from Dominion or customer information from Dominion? I've always thought that the default should be that unless somebody agrees to something, that they don't get it. And it seems to me most programs are kind of the opposite. I mean, is there any sort of statistics or anything that shows how many people actually look at their bill or really pay attention to all these things on there?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. While I can't speak to other businesses, I can tell you from my day-to-day work with customers, many of our customers do call about information that they've received from us in terms of programs and services that we may be communicating to them about. We are seeing increases in customers moving to more of our self-service channels, such as our website, to seek information or to click on links related to bill inserts that they may receive.
Well, I just remember my 93-year-old mother would say something about, you can get more of this story by going to WBTW.com. She says, I'm not on the internet. It's just, I just wondered about that. When you say third-party things, you mentioned like a community awareness agency or one of these. Are there any other sort of agencies that actually do sell products that can get this information, or is it just service-type industries?
Well, for our business purposes here in South Carolina, what I have direct knowledge of would be trusted third parties, for example, that may receive financial information for customers to just verify credit checks. We also work with with third parties related to commission-approved programs, such as our demand-side management programs. Yeah. So in that case, customers would receive information related to programs such as our home energy checkup, and that may tell them more information and details about those programs and services.
Okay. Well, thank you for that information. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Powers. Vice Chair Belzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Ms. Freeman. Thank you for being here and for your testimony.
Good morning.
I believe you've indicated, and I think it's in the now exhibit, that Dominion initially provides residential customers with information on the privacy policy when they sign up. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then there's an annual notice is given later. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How is that notice given?
The Dominion provides that information in a few ways, Commissioner. Initially, as you mentioned, when customers sign on for initial service with us, they would receive it through their welcome packet. They would also receive it through bill statements that would include a link to the privacy notice. And we also include that privacy notice on our website, so customers can access it that way as well.
Okay. And you've stated, and I think it's in a few places in your testimony, that Dominion does not sell customer data to third parties. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Caston. Thank you, Vice Chair Belzer.
I was going to ask almost exactly what Vice Chair Belzer asked about your implementation guidelines. DSC does not sell customer data or does not share customer data with third party or an affiliated company without the consent of the customer or complying with the regulation. Has there ever been a customer that says, yes, you can sell my data?
That's a great question, Commissioner Caston. To my knowledge, I've not received that information in my day-to-day interactions with customers.
And it says sell or share customer data without the consent of the customer. Is that share other than for credit checks and such as that, or I'm trying to understand exactly what that is.
Yes, sir, as to when we would share it with a third party. So a few examples of that, Commissioner. One that I reference in my testimony is if a customer is needing assistance with their utility bill, Dominion may share information with a community action agency related to that customer to connect them with resources available to assist with that. As it speaks to our commission-approved programs, for example, Dominion may share electric usage with our trusted third parties related to programs like our home energy checkup, so that those customers would then be able to receive additional information on ways to conserve for their utility purposes.
Okay. But relative to, I guess, sharing maybe consumption or usage data, does Dominion do that more globally, say with, I don't know, maybe when they put together the state energy plan or whatever, that information would be shared, I assume, more globally. You don't really get down into the mining of individual residents' information for that, do you?
Not specifically as it relates to my work, if I'm understanding the question. We would only share information with trusted third parties as it relates to the business need. And we would maintain that on a very limited basis based off of what that program or service may offer through that third party.
Good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Commissioner Irvin, Commissioner Williams, any questions for Ms. Freeman?
Chairman Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Freeman. Thank you for being here and answering all of our questions. I'm going to kind of go over some previous realm that we covered. And how do we know, how does the customer know that they can withhold data that could be shared?
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
We advise our customers through our privacy notice, but we also certainly make the options to opt out available through our website. There's a variety of ways that customers can reach out to us if they have any questions or concerns about their customer data that we are receiving. They can either email us directly, they can contact a member of my team by telephone, or they can reach out to us through our web portal.
I realize you've said that before, and I appreciate your saying it again. I guess my concern is just accessibility, and but I also know it's probably a very thin sliver of your customers that are going to be interested in that. But you never know unless it's promoted and clear and available. That was my only question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. If there are no more questions for Ms. Freeman from commissioners.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Irvin.
Thank you. Ms. Freeman, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you.
Thank you. And one of the reasons that we opened this docket initially came to our attention that Dominion Energy's name was being used, a mail-out solicitation by a separate entity asking your customers to consider purchasing some type of insurance for their utility lines, as I recall. Now that we've established these regulations and you've taken steps to ensure that customer data is not shared with other third parties, is it fair to say that that practice is now prohibited by this new policy?
Commissioner, I would say it's fair to say that Dominion is following the implementation guidelines and certainly utilizing that as a good framework to make sure that we are doing everything within the regulation to maintain our customers' data as safe as possible while providing them with the information they are seeking on our programs and services.
Very good. Well, we appreciate you doing that. And my concern at the time was it appeared to be misleading to customers that it looked like a solicitation was coming from Dominion when in fact it was an independent third party. And so I'm glad we've been able to clear that up, and thank you for your appearance today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Office of Regulatory Staff, do you have any questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right. You have any redirect, sir?
Mr. Chairman, we have no redirect from Ms. Freeman, but we would ask that we be excused from the hearing room to monitor the remainder of the hearing virtually.
Yes, sir. Request is granted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Freeman, you may step down. You are excused. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Dominion Council, and sir, you are excused. Duke Energy LLC, Duke Energy Progress.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The companies would call Mr. Alan Hutcherson to the stand.
Hey, this is Alan.
Mr. Hutchison, if you please would raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Hutcherson, would you please state your name for the record?
Yes, Alan Hutcherson.
By whom were you employed and in what capacity?
Duke Energy Principal Ethics and Compliance Analyst.
Did you prepare or cause to be prepared 11 pages of direct testimony that were pre-filed with the commission in this proceeding?
Yes.
If I asked you the same questions that were asked in your pre-filed direct testimony this morning, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that Mr. Hutcherson's pre-filed direct testimony be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Mr. Hutchinson's pre-filed direct testimony will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hutcherson, did you also prepare or cause to be prepared one exhibit that was attached to your pre-filed direct testimony?
Yes.
Do you have any changes to that exhibit at this time?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that Mr. Hutcherson's pre-filed exhibit be entered as the next hearing exhibit.
Mr. Hutchinson's pre-filed direct exhibit, Hutcherson Exhibit 1, will be marked and entered into the record as hearing exhibit number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hutcherson, would you please provide a summary of your testimony at this time?
Yes, I will. Thank you for your time today. The purpose of my testimony is to provide information regarding the company's proposed guidelines for customer data privacy, security, and access, which I refer to as the guidelines, and explain how the guidelines comply with Regulation 103.823-2. The company submitted their guidelines on November 24th, 2021, in accordance with the 180-day deadline imposed by the regulation 103.823.2. The regulation requires the guidelines to address a variety of topics, including customer notice and awareness, customer choice and consent, customer data access, data quality and security procedures and measures, public utility accounting and auditing, frequency of notice to customers, and due diligence exercised when sharing customer data with third parties. The company's guidelines are consistent with the company's code of conduct, which governs the relationships, activities, and transactions between and among the companies, their affiliates, and third parties, and provides controls that dictate the terms by which the non-public customer information is shared, disclosed, and protected. The code of conduct was implemented by the companies as a result of the merger between DEC and DEP and first approved by this commission in 2012. The code of conduct and the company's guidelines prohibit the disclosure of customer information without the customer's explicit and informed consent, and in some limited exceptions as outlined in Commission Rule 103.8232. Customer information is defined in the code of conduct and the guidelines as non-public information or data specific to a customer or group of customers, including but not limited to electricity consumption, natural gas consumption, load profile, billing history, credit history that is or has been obtained or compiled by the companies in connection with supplying electric services to that customer or group of customers. This definition is in line with the requirements of this regulation 103.8232. The company's guidelines outlines key communications and policies that governs customer notice and awareness. The digital privacy policy applies to the personal information obtained through the company's websites and mobile apps. It is publicly available on the company's website. The guidelines also outline the materials provided to all new South Carolina customers via the welcome brochure, which includes customer bills of rights and customer information on rate schedules. The guidelines also address customer choice and consent as required by Regulation 103.832. The guidelines explain that the companies offer customers with choices in connection with their personal information that the companies obtain via their websites and mobile apps. To update their preferences, limit communication, or submit a request, customers may contact the companies as specified in the How to Contact Us section of the digital privacy policy. The guidelines also outline the processes by which third parties may request access to customer information. With respect to customer data access, the guidelines reiterate that the companies do not disclose customer information or data to third parties without customer consent, except as specified by Regulation 103.8232 and the Code of Conduct. With respect to data quality and data security, the guidelines explain that the companies maintain administrative, technical, and physical safeguards designed to protect customer information against accidental, unlawful, or unauthorized destruction, loss, alteration, access, disclosure, or use. The guidelines also address public utility accountability and auditing and explain that the companies, pursuant to the Code of Conduct, report inappropriate disclosures of customer information to this commission. Those reports detail the circumstances of the disclosure, the information disclosed, the results of disclosure, and the steps taken to mitigate the effects of those disclosures and prevent future occurrences. The guidelines also address frequency of notice to customers and explain that the companies provide South Carolina customers with a welcome brochure and information on rate schedules via email or electronically, depending on whether or not the customer has provided an email address. Excuse me. Additionally, the digital privacy policy is updated periodically to reflect changes in the company's personal information practices, and the date of the most recent update is reflected in the policy. Finally, the guidelines address the company's due diligence practices with respect to customer information with respect to sharing customer information with third parties. As I mentioned earlier, the guidelines reiterate that the companies do not disclose customer information or data to third parties without customer consent, as specified in Regulation 103.8232 and in the company's Code of Conduct. Additionally, the companies have strategic third-party risk management program that enables the companies to manage cybersecurity risks associated with engaging third parties who provide information and application hosting services on behalf of the companies. The companies have also have standard terms and conditions for service providers that contain confidentiality provisions, restrictive use provisions, return or destroy obligations, as well as an obligation to notify the companies in the event of unauthorized access. The companies take seriously their obligation to protect customer data and information. The guidelines explain and memorialize the company's existing policies and how adherence to the company's Code of Conduct ensures a robust framework exists for protecting non-public customer data from unauthorized or inappropriate disclosure to third parties while providing customers with the flexibility to authorize and disclose to other third parties where appropriate. This concludes my testimony. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hutcherson. Mr. Hutcherson is available for questions from the commission or other parties. Thank you.
Commissioners, questions for Mr. Hutcherson? Vice Chair Belzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Hutcherson. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you. Hope you are.
Thank you for your testimony this morning. I want to talk a little or ask a couple of questions about sharing data with third parties. Does Duke sell information to third parties?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. And I believe in the exhibit it indicates that Duke may share information with non-affiliated third parties to the extent necessary for the affiliate or non-affiliated third party to provide goods or services to DEC or DEP. Could you explain or describe some situations of those third parties, who they might be, what they might be doing for Duke or DEP, for Duke, DEC or DEP?
Yeah, absolutely. Similar to Ms. Freeman's testimony, we would provide data to third parties for the purposes of credit checks. That's a very common use. We also may provide data to third parties for commission-approved programs, as well as for other activities like credit and collections.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hutcherson, good morning. I am looking at your an energy data request form, and I'm trying to figure it out because it says once you send it in, there'll be a $48 flat fee and a variable fee of 20 cents per customer. Who is doing this request form?
So in that case, the energy data request form, if a third party is requesting data, say an apartment building owner is requesting data for a tenant, then they would be paying a fee, which is the fees are outlined in our Code of Conduct. So in that case, the customer would have to provide consent for that data to be sent to the third party, and then the third party pays that fee.
And that would be every customer?
Yes, every customer that would use that form in that situation, yes.
And then Duke would collect $48 plus 20 cents per customer?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Commissioners, any more questions for Mr. Hutcherson? Office of Regulatory Staff.
No questions were asked, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Attorney Brown, you have any redirect? Attorney Brown? Mr. Hutchison, it looks as if we lost your lawyer.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, now we can get to the good questions.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
Um,
She must have technical difficulties. I apologize for that.
yes, sir. Let's see here.
Chairman Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask one quick question, and that'll give us a little bit more time to navigate this circumstance. Would that be okay? Or
Well, I don't want to move forward without the attorney being present.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was joking about the good questions.
It's not that good.
All right.
Good morning. This is Katie Brown. Mr. Chairman, my power just went out, so I have joined on my phone. I apologize.
Oh, no worries. We were waiting for you. Okay. So, can you hear me and see me?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I can.
All right. There's one more question for your witness.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Attorney Brown, if you could, since you're joining us on your phone, could you disconnect from your computer?
I actually can't do anything, but because it's completely, I don't have power or internet right now.
Understood.
Is there an audio disruption? I apologize.
I think we can work through it. I think we only have one more question for your witness.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. We can work through it. Commissioner Williams, you have a question for Mr. Hutchison.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Hutcherson, you were really clear that the welcome brochure that you talked about was provided in digital form. I didn't hear whether it was also provided in the mail for those customers that are not receiving information electronically.
It is provided via mail for those that don't provide an email address.
Great. That was it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else for Mr. Hutchison, you may step down and be excused, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, and I apologize for the disruption on my part.
No worries. All right, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to move on to Lockhart Power.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lockhart Power calls Brian Stone to the stand.
Mr. Stone, if you would please raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Would you please state your name?
My name is Brian T. Stone.
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm the president of Lockhart Power Company.
Did you prepare or cause to be prepared 3 pages of direct testimony in this proceeding?
Yes.
If I were to ask you the same questions today, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to have Mr. Stone's pre-filed direct testimony entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Mr. Stone's pre-filed direct testimony will be read into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Thank you. Mr. Stone, did you prepare or was prepared at your direction an exhibit to that testimony?
Yes. Exhibit A, Customer Data Privacy Guidelines for Lockhart Power Company.
Thank you. And those are the guidelines that you're seeking to have the commission approve today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to have Exhibit A entered into the record as the next hearing exhibit.
Mr. Stone's direct exhibit A will be marked and entered into the record as hearing exhibit number 3.
Thank you. Mr. Stone, do you have a summary of your testimony?
Yes, thank you.
Please give that at this time. Thanks.
Lockhart Power understands that strong consumer data privacy protections are essential to maintaining the trust of our customers, and the company is committed to protecting the security and privacy of all customer data. First and foremost, Lockhart Power does not sell customer data. The company has never and does not intend to provide customer information to any entity other than its third-party partners who are contracted to provide essential services to the company in the operation of its normal business activities. Lockhart makes every effort to protect customer information through the security of its computer system, payment card industry or PCI compliance, training of its employees, and any other ways the company identifies that are pertinent to its operations. Lockhart's policies and procedures are detailed in the Customer Data Privacy Guidelines that were filed with the Commission on November 23rd, 2021, and attached to my testimony as Exhibit A. These policies and procedures are not new to the company. They represent Lockhart's current and historic processes and procedures for protecting the privacy of customer data. The only differences are that, 1, the guidelines are now presented in written form as required by Regulation 103-823.2, and 2, Lockhart proposes to provide its customers with an annual customer rights statement, which is attached to the guidelines as Attachment 1, to explain the company's policies and procedures to customers. Lockhart's guidelines address each of the required items included in Commission Regulation 103-823.2H2. Lockhart's guidelines are appropriate and adequate to protect the privacy of customer data, especially given the fact that Lockhart has not ever sold and does not intend to sell customer data. We believe approval of Lockhart's guidelines is in the public interest, and we respectfully request that the Commission approve Lockhart's Customer Data Privacy Protection Guidelines as filed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone is available for Commissioner questions.
Commissioner questions for Mr. Stone. Vice Chair Belzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Stone. It's good to see you this morning.
Good morning, you as well.
How will Lockhart update their customers annually on these privacy, with the privacy rights statement?
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to say that I'll field any policy and higher level questions, and I have David Turner, who's our business controller, to address any of the technical and more detailed granular questions. And so that's one question I'd like to refer to Mr. Turner. Ms. Fox, I don't know if we need to have him sworn in as well for that purpose.
I think I was going to ask that if the Commission would want Mr. Turner to be sworn in so that for the purposes of responding to operational type questions, we're happy to have the Commission do that now at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that Mr. Turner be sworn in.
All right, Mr. Turner, if you would please raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, so we have both witnesses sworn in, and Attorney Fox, I guess this is turned into a panel now. Do you have any issues with that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, if that's acceptable to the Commission, I think that's the way we'd like to handle it. I know this is not truly a contested case, but it's really more of an informational session to explain the guidelines and respond to any concern with the guidelines. And so that's why we hope to have Mr. Stone, who presented the testimony on behalf of the company. He's the president of the company, but we'd also like to have Mr. Turner address any concerns or questions that the Commission might have in order to be fully responsive to the Commissioner's concerns.
All right. So Mr. Stone and Mr. Turner are both under oath and both available for questioning. Vice Chair Belzer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Turner.
Good morning.
My question is, how will Lockhart provide the annual notification of the privacy statement to the customers?
It will be a direct customer mail out that we'll do, providing that information to all of our customers at one time.
And it'll be just resending the same statement that they were given when they signed up for service?
It will, well, since we currently have not had a written policy for this, this will be the first time when we mail it out. But going forward, yes, it will be the same thing that that they'll receive as a new customer and then going forward on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just, this next question, I'm not sure if it's going to be Mr. Stone or Mr. Turner, but in the policy, there is a reference to the red flag policies are reviewed and staff members are trained on those annually. And when you reference the red flag policy, is that the legislation, the federal legislation that was implemented a number of years ago with regard to protection of customer data?
Yes, ma'am, that is the case.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, questions for the panelists? Commissioner Caston.
Good morning. And I'm also not sure whether this would be Mr. Stone and Mr. Turner question, but, well, I suspect you, Mr. Stone, is in your testimony, but it says the company has never and does not intend to provide customer information to any entity other than its third-party partners who are contracted to provide essential services to the company in operation of its normal business activities, as permitted, per the regulation. Can you give me an example of what that is or what that would be, that third party who is contracted to provide essential services?
Sure, I can give one or two, and Mr. Turner may want to add to that list. And I think it's consistent with the other investment utilities that have mentioned this to date. Anything associated with customer credit checks, we need certain information in order to perform those. Mr. Turner, you want to add other examples? There aren't many. There's only a few that we use on a regular basis. We try to minimize it.
Right, yes. As Mr. Stone said, we do use one company for our credit check procedures for new customers. And then we have a third party who collects our electronic payments for us. And so they have access to our customer information for customers to be able to go into their portal to be able to pay them, make their payments.
Okay, thank you very much. And I don't know, Mr. Stone, if you are referencing me as Mr. Chairman, but I've not made that climb up the ladder. I'm kind of comfortable right here. So, but thank you.
Sorry, I didn't think I said that. I might have misspoken.
I may have misunderstood you, but either way, I appreciate the appreciate the promotion, but I don't care for it. Thank you.
Questions for this panel? Commissioners. Office of Regulatory Staff.
Nothing for ORS, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Attorney Fox, do you have any redirect for this panel?
No redirect, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Stone and Mr. Turner, you may step down from the stand, and you all are excused. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Piedmont Natural Gas Company, Incorporated.
Mr. Chairman, Piedmont Natural Gas Company calls PK Powers to the stand to be sworn in as a witness.
Ms. Powers, if you could please raise your right hand. Thank you, ma'am.
Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Powers, please state your name for the record.
Pia Katharina Powers.
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by Piedmont Natural Gas as the Managing Director of Gas Rates and Regulatory.
Did you prepare or cause to be prepared under your direction 3 pages of direct testimony that was pre-filed with the Commission on April 14th, 2022?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes or additions to your direct testimony?
I do not.
Ms. Powers, if I asked you all the questions contained in your pre-filed direct testimony here today, would your answers still be the same?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I move that the pre-filed direct testimony of Ms. P.A.K. Powers be entered into the record as if giving orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Ms. Powers will be read into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Ms. Powers, did your pre-filed direct testimony also include one exhibit labeled PKP-1?
It did.
Do you have any corrections to that exhibit at this time?
I do. I apologize for this late, to the Commission for this late correction, but yes, I do. Exhibits A and C that were contained in my exhibit, and they also, those exhibits were part of the company's November 24th, 2021 filing. They should be replaced with revised exhibits A and C. Revised Exhibit A contains Piedmont's updated digital privacy policy. Revised Exhibit C contain Piedmont's updated terms of use and terms and conditions related to customer use of the website and email, voice, and text communication. These updated policies have not materially changed from the policies that the company submitted on April 14th, 2022, and in its filing in November 2021. The revisions were to the policies were administrative in nature and were made to ensure uniformity and ease for the customer in their understanding of the policies. Uniformity across Duke Energy affiliated entities, as Piedmont is a subsidiary of Duke Energy.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I move the exhibit labeled PKP-1 as attached to Ms. Powers' pre-filed direct testimony and with the corrections noted today be entered in as the next hearing exhibit.
The corrected version of PKP-1 with the corrections listed by Ms. Powers will be marked and entered into the record as hearing exhibit number 4.
Thank you. Ms. Powers, have you prepared a summary of your pre-filed direct testimony in these proceedings?
Attorney Richardson, Ms. Powers, I hate to interrupt you too.
I'm sorry about that.
No, you have nothing to apologize for. The revised exhibits, have those been filed with the commission?
We have emailed those exhibits just about 30 minutes ago to Ms. Wilson, and we planned on filing a whole corrected exhibit PKP-1 with the commission today.
All right, thank you, sir.
I'll restart my next question. Again, apologize for that. Have you prepared a summary of your pre-filed direct testimony in these proceedings?
I have.
Can you please present that summary to the commission?
Yes. My name is Pia Katharina Powers, and I am a Managing Director of Gas Rates and Regulatory for Piedmont Natural Gas. I filed direct testimony in this docket on April 14th, 2022, in support of the company's guidelines for customer data, filed on November 24th, 2021. The company's guidelines filed in November 2021 pertain to customer notice and awareness, customer choice and consent, customer data access, data quality and security procedures and measures, public utility accountability and auditing, frequency of notice to customers, due diligence exercised by the utility when sharing customer data with third parties. Piedmont protects customer information by adhering to the company's code of conduct, and the company's code of conduct was implemented for Piedmont as a result of the merger between Piedmont and Duke Energy and was adopted by this commission in order number 2016-772, which is dated November 2nd, 2016. Specifically, the company's code of conduct governs the relationships, activities, and transactions between and among Piedmont, its affiliates, and third parties. It also provides controls that dictate the terms by which non-public customer information is shared, disclosed, and protected. the procedures and trainings that the company implements as a result of the Code of Conduct's restrictions and the company's privacy policy have established a robust framework to protect non-public customer data from unauthorized or inappropriate disclosure to third parties by the company, its agents, its affiliates, while also providing customers the ability to authorize disclosure to other parties where appropriate. So ultimately, Piedmont collects and protects customer information in accordance with its Code of Conduct and South Carolina Regulation 103-823.2. The company maintains administrative, technical, and physical safeguards to protect personal information against accidental, unlawful, or unauthorized destruction, loss, altercation, access, disclosure, or use. Piedmont does not sell its customer data. Piedmont's digital privacy policy applies to the personal information obtained through the company's website, and the company's digital privacy policy is publicly available on the company's website. As mentioned a couple moments ago, the company recently updated its digital privacy policy to conform with the details conveyed in the digital privacy policy of our affiliates in the Carolinas. And similarly, Piedmont recently updated the terms of use and terms and conditions shown on its website for customers for the email, website, voice, and text communications. I believe that the company's guidelines are in the public interest and should be approved. I'm happy to answer any questions that this commission has at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Powers. Commissioners, questions for Ms. Powers?
Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chair Belzer.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Powers. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Ms. Powers, in looking at your Exhibit 1 and the guidelines, the part of governing frequency of notice to customers, it indicates that the notice is available on the website and that it may be changed at times, but can you tell me how the notice is provided to the customer initially and annually?
It's provided to the customer initially pursuant to their election communications.
Okay, wait a minute. There's some reverb and I didn't catch that. Can you start again?
Yeah. The notice is provided to customers initially pursuant to their election of the communication method, electronic or otherwise, if Piedmont does not have an email address. If a customer has not provided an email address and elected electronic communications, the only means for providing the notice to customers is through U.S. mail.
Okay, that's initially. What about annually?
It's a reference to our website.
So there's not like a notice on the bill or an email that might go out and say, you know, this is annual notification of the policy, privacy policy?
At this time, I believe not.
Okay. If there are updates to the privacy policy, is there notification provided to the customer either electronically or maybe a bill and notice on the bill or bill insert?
At this time, no, but that can easily be accommodated.
The regulation says practices and procedures to provide initial and annual notification. That kind of indicates to me that something needs to go annually to the customers. I just point that out.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Ask y'all to look at that. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Commissioner Caston.
Thank you. I'm coming. Good morning, Ms. Powers.
Good morning.
On exhibit, your exhibit 4, exhibit A and C, these, I guess the privacy statement, terms of use, voice, SMS, texting, and email terms and conditions, were those copied directly from the document or whatever it is that Piedmont uses for customers?
Yeah, the attachment, exactly. The attachments that you referenced from the November 24th filing, also included in my testimony April 14th, were from the company's website at the time of that November 24th filing. They have since been updated and are of identical nature and form to that of our affiliates, DEC and DEP, on our website.
Well, I do not have the best eyesight, I'll admit that. But I can't come close to reading that. I mean, you could be telling me I promised you my house, my car, and a host of other things, and I would not know that. You know, just for what it's worth, I mean, I put my glasses on and I couldn't read it. Now, again, perhaps I need better glasses, I'll admit that, but that is some mighty small print. I would think if you really want your customers to be informed, you'd kind of make it easier for them to read.
Thank you. I hear the point you're making. The size of the font, I take full credit for that. The size of the font was simply included. The size of the font included on that November 24th filing was simply to a function of getting it to be able to be printed into a PDF. On the company's website, it is of readable font size. I too, like you, need glasses to read it as printed in the filing, but on the website at that time and now with the updated version, it is of a readable font size. I know you simply can take my word for it. I don't have a way. I will make sure that our filing later today of the updated policies are formatted and presented in print form legibly. Again, I do testify herein that on our website, it is of a legible size.
Is this did I understand you to say that this is kind of what I would receive in the mail or a packet? Is it the size that I received?
No, it is not of that size.
Okay.
It was simply of that size for this filing, for the attachment of the exhibits. But I admit we can make an improvement to future filings and we'll certainly do so with the updated policy to be filed today.
Okay. And that's a very pretty background you have there. Is that a real background?
No, it was, it's not a real background. It's a standard on the web.
It's okay. I'm sorry. I was hoping you had that to look at every day. Thank you.
I would love to have that background to look at it in real life. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, any more questions for Ms. Powers? Office of Regulatory Staff?
No questions or us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. All right. Attorney Richardson, do you have any redirect for Ms. Powers?
No redirect, Mr. Commissioner.
All right, sir. Ms. Powers, thank you for joining us this morning. You may step down from the stand and you are excused.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Need a break. All right, we're going to take a brief morning break. We will recess until 11:20. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Public Service Commission of South Carolina. We're here in docket number 2019-387A. Today is May 23rd, 2022, and it is 11:20 a.m. Present in the hearing room, we have Commissioners J. Williams, Caston, Powers, and Belzer. Joining us virtually, we have Commissioners Irvin and C. Williams. We are now at the point in this matter where we are calling on Blue Granite Water Company. Blue Granite.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lyle Trawick on behalf of Blue Granite Water Company. At this time, the company would call Phil Drennan to the stand to be sworn in as a witness.
Mr. Drennan, if you would please raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Phil Drennan.
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by Blue Granite Water, the Regional Director of Financial Planning and Analysis for the company.
Thank you. And Mr. Drennan, did you prepare or cause to be prepared 13 pages of pre-filed direct testimony that was filed with the Commission on April 15th of this year?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes to that testimony?
No, I do not.
If I were to ask you the same questions today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd move to have Mr. Drennan's pre-filed direct testimony entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Mr. Drennan's pre-filed direct testimony will be read into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Drennan, do you have a summary of your testimony?
Yes, I do.
Would you please present that summary to the Commission at this time?
So well. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before this Commission regarding Blue Granite's customer data protection guidelines, as directed by Section H of Regulation 103-823.2. Blue Granite filed its customer data protection guidelines for Commission approval on November 29, 2021. Following Commission Directive 2022-141, Blue Granite submitted testimony on April 15, 2022, explaining how the company's guidelines comply with Regulation 103-823.2. Today, I will read a summary of my direct testimony as filed on April 15th. The purpose of my direct testimony is to communicate that Blue Granite's corporate guidelines for protecting, disclosing, and sharing customer information with third parties comply with Regulation 103-823.2, which protects customer data. Blue Granite will provide sufficient disclosure to the customer of the intended use of the data collected, access or control available to the customer for the data collected, and steps taken by Blue Granite to protect customers' data. Such disclosure may take the form of a flyer insert with the customer's bill, notification on a website or app, communication by email or phone, or other similar method. Disclosures may also include any terms and conditions for use of Blue Granite applications. Blue Granite will provide general notice to customers no less than annually. The methods used to inform customers that provided personal data will be protected and not shared with third parties without consent or only under limited circumstances. The limited circumstances in which Blue Granite would provide customer data to third parties, and the ways in which customers may access, monitor, or modify their data. The appropriate contact methods for questions or needed corrections regarding customer data, and the security and control procedures in place to protect customer data. This notice may occur via email, electronic notification via the company's applications, or flyer and bill insert. It will also be permanently posted on Blue Granite's website. Any updates will be communicated timely to customers. Blue Granite has established processes that allow the customer to control access to customer data, including processes for customers to monitor, correct, or limit the use of customer data. Blue Granite has also established procedures for use of customer data, purpose of collection, limitations of the use of customer data, and processes for customer non-standard requests. Blue Granite may collect, use, or disclose customer data without customer knowledge or consent in limited circumstances, which include without limitation when such collection, use, or disclosure is permitted or required by law. When use of information is for acting in an emergency that threatens an individual's life, health, or personal security, or to prevent damage to Blue Granite or customers' property. When certain information is publicly available. When pursuing customer payment for services rendered or authorized customer deposit activity. When needing to address an anticipated breach of law, and when responding to service interruptions, customer complaint, or service quality issues. Blue Granite collects and uses customer data for purposes reasonably required for it to carry on business. The types of customer data collected by Blue Granite and the purposes for which it is used include the following: to establish, maintain a business relationship, to develop and improve products and services, to understand customer needs and preferences, to assist an agent acting on a customer's behalf, for quality assurance purposes, to manage Blue Granite's business and operations. Blue Granite may acquire new businesses or sell or assign, merge, amalgamate, or transfer all or parts of its business. Since customer data associated with any accounts, products, or services of the businesses being purchased, sold, assigned, merged, amalgamated, or transferred will typically be included in such transactions, Blue Granite may disclose such information to such other entities as part of the transaction or pre-transaction review under a non-disclosure agreement. Blue Granite shall take appropriate and reasonable steps to store customer data in such a manner as to limit access to those persons permitted to receive it, and shall require all persons with access to such information to protect its confidentiality. Employees with access to customer data are prohibited from making any improper indirect use of the data. The company shall not provide customer data to a third party for commercial or for-profit purpose. The company will thoroughly review aggregated data to ensure it is devoid of unique personal information before sharing it with a third party for any purpose except those limited circumstances outlined in these guidelines or permitted by law. The company shall maintain an enterprise cybersecurity program that includes in its structure, but is not limited to, the following functions or features: internal control and audit, employee training, data encryption, monitoring, backup and recovery, incident response, and continuous improvement. To improve its websites and applications on an ongoing basis, the company may use cookies or similar technology to facilitate and track the visit and activities of users. The company's cookies do not store personal data. Users can set their browsers to notify if cookies or disable cookies, but some functions of these websites may not be available if cookies are disabled. The company may use Google Analytics or certain other third-party analytics services. The providers of these services may independently collect, use, or disclose user IP addresses together with information about user visits to these or other websites that they service in accordance with their own private policies. These services may use their own cookies or other data collection technologies. They may use this information in order to improve user experience, to gain a view of how people are using websites and the service so that improvements can be made and otherwise permitted in their private policies. Blue Granite will take reasonable steps to destroy or permanently de-identify customer data if it holds it is no longer needed for Blue Granite's business purposes or any applicable regulatory or legal requirements. Any employee who is found to have shared customer data in a manner inconsistent with these guidelines is subject to discipline, including possible termination of the company's employment relationship. Blue Granite will also promptly communicate to their regulator the nature of the unauthorized disclosure and subsequent mitigation efforts, as well as notify the affected customers in writing. Blue Granite will provide general notice to customers no less than annually of the methods used to inform customers that provided personal data will be protected and not shared with third parties without consent or only under limited circumstances. The limited circumstances in which Blue Granite would provide customer data to third parties, the ways in which customers may access, monitor, or modify their data, the appropriate contact methods for questions or needed corrections regarding customer data, the security and control procedures in place to protect customer data. The company will include language in all third-party agreements that contemplates the sharing of customer data, including limitations on the third party's use of the data and standards with which the third party must comply regarding the storage and protection of such data. The company will require that third party either return or destroy customer data consistent with commercially reasonable terms commonly found in non-disclosure and confidentiality agreements. This concludes the summary of my direct testimony.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Drennan is now available for questions from the commission.
Thank you, Attorney Trawick. Commissioners, questions for this witness? All right, sir, there are no questions for you from the commissioners. Let's see if the Office of Regulatory Staff has any questions for you.
No questions were asked, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, sir. No one has any questions for you. You may step down from the stand and you are excused.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. You're welcome, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day. Now we're going to go to Southwest Water Company. Attorney Tarini.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
We're going to call Craig Sorensen.
Mr. Sorensen, if you would take the witness stand and raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Sorensen.
Good morning.
Would you please tell the commission what your position is with Southwest Water?
Good morning. I'm president of Southwest Water Company's business in Alabama, Florida, and South Carolina.
And Mr. Sorensen, did you prepare or cause to be prepared 3 pages of pre-filed testimony in this docket that were filed on November 24th, 2021?
I did.
Do you have any additions or corrections you would like to make to this testimony?
I do not.
If I were to ask you the questions in the testimony today, would your answers be the same?
They would.
Thank you, Mr. Sorensen. Mr. Chairman, I move to introduce the pre-filed testimony of Craig Sorensen in this docket.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Craig Sorensen will be read into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Thank you. And Mr. Sorensen, did your pre-filed testimony have an exhibit attached to it, specifically a customer data and privacy policy of Southwest Water?
It did.
Are there any changes you wish to make to that exhibit at this time?
No, I have no changes.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to introduce the exhibit of Exhibit A to Mr. Sorensen's testimony, the customer data and privacy and protection policy, into evidence at this time.
Mr. Sorensen's Exhibit A will be marked and entered into the record as hearing Exhibit 5.
Thank you. Mr. Sorensen, can you just review for the commissioners what the Southwest Water subsidiaries in South Carolina are?
Sure, absolutely. Good morning, commissioners. We are Keogh Island Utility, South Carolina Water Utilities Incorporated, South Carolina Water Utilities -CUC, South Carolina Water Utilities -PUI, and Palmetto Water Reclamation.
And have each of these utilities implemented the privacy policy attached to your testimony?
They have, yes.
And is that privacy policy been posted to your website?
It is.
Right. And is the privacy policy designed to track the commission's regulations?
Yes, yes, it tracks very closely.
Does it substantially adopt the definitions in the commission's regulation?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And let me just ask you, does Southwest Water sell, or any of its subsidiaries, do they sell any data of customer data to third parties?
We do not.
Okay. And do you perform credit checks on customers?
We do not.
Okay. Do you take steps to protect customer data?
We do.
Could you tell us about your programs? Like, do you have a cybersecurity program?
Yes, we do. First of all, we do take customer data privacy very, very seriously. We do hold cyber insurance, and we perform regular training, and then pressure test that training with anti-phish emails attempting to trick our employees into clicking on a potentially fraudulent link, and then in the event anyone were to click on those links, then that results in retraining.
That keeps everybody on their toes, I guess.
Everybody on our toes, and those come around more frequently than I think people like. But we do have that. We have an IT filter and screens that deflect and defend against incoming fraudulent emails and blocks potentially fraudulent websites as well. And then we have annual training with our executive team on a tabletop exercise that differs from year to year, and where we're trained on walking through the processes and reactions associated with a data breach or a system hack, something like that. Third-party consultant walks us through the steps and that we would want to think about and be faced with in the fictitious scenario that I mentioned. So we do take it very seriously and focus on training for that defense of that data. But yes, we do not sell any customer data.
And will you notify your customers of the privacy policy upon enrollment?
Yes. Additionally to having it posted on our website, it is also there on our self-service customer portal, where the customer would sign up for electronic billing or ACH payment, something like that. But yeah, it's posted there as well. And then annually we will plan to remind customers of our policy by bill insert or wording on the bill or other methods.
And some of your customers elect to receive their billing by email. Is that correct?
Yes, some do.
And would those customers be notified electronically then?
We could probably do that as well. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are there instances in which Southwest Water would disclose customer data?
In the event of an operational need, I think we've talked about all those similar circumstances before, but in the event there was an issue in the system that we would need to share customer names and addresses with a line locate or something like that. If we're doing maintenance work on our back office system, if we would have a contractor engaged to assist us in system improvements, something technical behind the scenes, they would have access to that. They would be able to see that data, but they would not be able to use it, and certainly we do not sell it, but they would just be in the ordinary course of business.
So the only disclosure reasons, if I'm understanding you correctly, would be those that are permitted by the regulation.
That's correct.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask you, as a practical matter, what data do you have about your customers on file?
Names, addresses, account numbers. Some customers will have signed up for emails. We may have an email address, telephone number, those sorts of things. We do not collect and we do not certainly attempt to retain any social security numbers or driver's license numbers, anything like that. We don't even want to get. So we use generated PIN numbers as really the method of customer identification.
Mr. Sorensen, thank you. Please answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Thank you.
Commissioners, questions for Mr. Sorensen? Vice Chair Belzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Sorensen. Thank you for your appearance and testimony this morning.
Morning. It's good to see you.
You too. In looking at your guidelines under Section G, additional guidelines, give you a moment to get with me.
Yes.
Regarding item 6, frequency of notice of customers, does Southwest have any mechanism in place to annually remind customers of the privacy notice or even any updates to the privacy notice?
Any update to the privacy notice, and then annually in conformance with regulation, we would notify customers, again, maybe by wording on the bill or insert, whichever would be appropriate.
Okay, so that is part of the guidelines. I may have overlooked it. I didn't see it in the guidelines.
Yeah.
If I may, we did not explicitly state that in the guidelines, but we would comply with the regulation by providing those notices, and we'd be glad to even amend the policy to say as much.
That might be helpful, Mr. Torini and Mr. Sorensen, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Just to, because as you indicated, the regulation does require that, and it just might be good to specifically state it in the guidelines, if you don't mind.
Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sorensen. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sorensen, I'm looking at your policy too. Under B, number 2, it says you would not sell a customer's data for any purpose without the consent of the customer. Since you don't sell it, is there any real purpose for number 2?
In the event of some unforeseen circumstance that today I don't know about, we would request permission from the customer, but there's no intent today of that, certainly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I add to that as well?
Sure.
Commissioner, we were just tracking the regulation, which says as much. If we didn't have it in there, I would be concerned that somebody might question whether we would sell without consent, but that was our only purpose. Southwest doesn't sell and doesn't intend to sell information.
That's fine. I guess it's the lawyer coming out. Thank you.
Attorney Torini, regarding Vice Chair Belzer's request, I'm going to reserve a late file exhibit, hearing Exhibit 6, for submission of those revisions.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any more questions for Mr. Sorensen?
Chairman Williams.
Commissioner Williams, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. Good to see you, Mr. Sorensen. My question is a little broader because I'm just getting to know your company. When you talk about the information being available on your website, talk to me some about how that is related to the other companies that you oversee, like Kiowa Utilities or Palmetto Wastewater. Is that seamless? Is it in both places? From listening to your testimony, I wasn't sure.
So yes, the policy is on our main page, swwc.com. And then it's also available on the customer self-service portal where they sign up for electronic billing and to register for the benefits associated with online customer self-service management. So it's there as well.
So I'm not your customer. If I were a Palmetto Wastewater Reclamation customer, would I go straight to the Southwest site?
So yes, we would, and then you go to the site, and then at the site there's, where are you by state, and you drill down into the various utility that you are, and again the policy is on the main site, swfc.com/privacy, and it would also apply to all the companies underneath.
Maybe it's obvious, but the point of my question, and maybe it's also obvious that I'm not your customer, so I don't know how this works, but it would, the last thing you would want, or we would want, is for your policy to be in an obscure location. And what I hope you're testifying to is that location on the Southwest site is the site that all of your disparate customers throughout the state go to, and is the place that they would see it on a regular basis.
Yes. Then we are planning to notify our customers annually as per the exchange with Commissioner Belser, and we'll produce the amendment as well.
Right. In your conversation with Attorney Tarini, there was a question about does your policy substantially adopt the regulation?
Yes.
Does it thoroughly adopt the regulation?
It was intended to.
Okay. Is there an element that is not being adopted, I guess, is the pointed question.
I'll leave that to the lawyer, but I do not believe so.
Okay.
Commissioner
Thank you
Williams, there's not. When I said substantially, as Commissioner Powers said, it was the lawyer coming out in me. We use the term Southwest Water Company instead of the utility. But otherwise it's verbatim.
Great. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Thank you.
All right, Office of Regulatory Staff, any questions for Mr. Sorensen?
Nothing for ORS. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Attorney Tarini, any redirect?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Sorensen, thank you for joining us today. You may step down from the stand and you are excused, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
You too. All right, the town of Irmo did not join us today, neither did the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. Is there anything from the Office of Regulatory Staff before we adjourn today?
No, Mr. Chairman, ORS did not file testimony for today's hearing. We did file a letter on April 15th, and I'll just update the commission. All but 2 utilities have filed guidelines in accordance with the regulation. The 2 that have not, that were mentioned in that letter, are Dowd Water Systems and Scenic Lake Park. And ORS is continuing to communicate with those entities about filing guidelines. But that's nothing else from ORS. Thank you,
all right.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. If all hearts and minds are clear, we are adjourned.